Usually, Mayor Caccioli, can we start housekeeping? Ron, you want to go ahead and start the housekeeping, please?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room. And please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings and other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's Friday, February 9th, 2024, and I'll officially call this meeting to order of the South Coast Air Quality Management District Hybrid Legislative Committee meeting. Welcome all of you today and ask Aisha Reyes to please call the roll.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor Lock-Dawson?
Here.
Supervisor Hagman?
Present.
Supervisor Perez?
Here.
Councilmember Rahman? Councilmember Rahman? Councilmember Caccioli?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Aisha. Well,
Good morning. Solachis here too.
Oh, hello.
Good morning. Solachis here as well.
I see Mayor Salache.
Thank you.
Mayor Salache, thank you. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And we'll move to item number 1. But before we start action discussion items, I want to thank our staff who just got back yesterday from Washington, D.C. Wayne, Lisa, Derek, Sarah, Larry McAllen, all the others, and our consultants who really handled a great trip. We'll be talking about that later. But thank you so much. And thank you for our staff for organizing these meetings and my fellow board members. Let's start with item number 1, update on proposed sponsored bills. No motion is required on this. Philip Crabb, Senior Public Affairs Manager, Legislative, Public Affairs and Media. Philip, go ahead, please.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I will provide an update regarding the 2024 South Coast AQMD sponsored bill proposals at the state level. And I will start with a quick summary of those proposals. First, we have twin bills relating to board member compensation. One is the Air District Board Member Compensation Limit Increase Bill, which would increase existing outdated compensation limits for local Air District board members by up to 2 times and include a CPI increase going forward. This bill is in line with SB 329 DOD, signed into law in 2023, that increased the compensation that city council members can receive and allowed for annual increases going forward. Next, we have the CARB Board Member Air District Representative Fair Compensation Bill. And that would provide that CARB board members representing air districts who currently receive little to no compensation would start receiving the same level of compensation as other voting CARB board members. And finally, we have the Carl Moyer Program Updates Bill. First, this bill would expand the liquidation time for Moyer funding from 4 to 6 years to offset increasingly difficult conditions surrounding the funding of projects. Additionally, the bill would increase Moyer program admin fees for larger air districts from 6.25% to 12.5% to offset expanding costs and requirements related to implementation. Staff has been conducting extensive outreach, including over 30 meetings in Sacramento over the last few months, to educate state legislators who are prospective authors about the 3 bill proposals. We have received interest and participated in numerous follow-up communications regarding the bill proposals, but have not yet secured authors. More recently, state legislators have been focused on getting their two-year bills out of the first house by the end of January to avoid having those bills die. That deadline slowed down activity regarding new legislation, causing legislators to take more time to make decisions on bills for 2024. In the meantime, we provided draft legislative language and ideas to Legislative Council in Sacramento and have been working with them to develop bill language for our three proposals. The bill introduction deadline is February 16th, and staff will continue to meet and communicate with legislators and staff to secure bill authors. And that's my report. Thank you.
Philip, thank you so much. I'll look at my fellow committee members. Supervisor Hagman, any questions? Council members, supervisors online, any questions for staff for Philip Crabb?
Just a question.
Supervisor Perez, go ahead, Manny.
So which, do we have any sponsors for any of these bills, or which ones are we missing to find a sponsor?
Supervisor, as Philip mentioned, we've spoken to many. We're close to possibly getting the Cara Moyer, the Cara Moyer. We'll know better on probably Monday when we're up in Sacramento. And then additional, that would be either with Assemblymember Garcia or Senator Gonzalez, Lena Gonzalez. And so those, and then regarding the other bills, I know that they're talking about bifurcating it and only a portion of the Carl Moyer being authored. Again, that's by Assemblymember Garcia. He's interested in authoring the extension of the liquidation period from 4 to 6 years. He's not willing to introduce the portion for the admin fees to be increased. But we'll know on Monday.
What was the reason for that?
I believe, we don't know exactly, but I think it's because the appearance that it's a fee increase and because the state is in a deficit, that any fee increases are going to be scrutinized even more. And I think he just didn't want being opposed to one and the other one being okay being in one bill, rather separate them, but he doesn't want to carry the portion for the increased admin fee.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Mayor, any further questions for staff? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? I don't see any hands raised, Wayne or staff. Nobody here in the audience. Paul's looking around, nobody here, and nobody online. So we'll move on to item number 2, update discussion on federal legislative issues. We'll start with Gary Hoisma. Gary, go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Today I'm going to report on some of the meetings we had here in DC this week. And, just at the top, I just want to say it was quite amazing. We had such a tour de force of the South Coast region together, acting together and being together in the same place at the same time. And I think I speak for the other consultants when I say that this was very impressive to all the people we met with down here, to see the elected officials from South Coast, the South Coast staff, the port leaders, the industry leaders around the port, labor, environment, all in one room together to go in to talk about what is the path forward to a zero emission future. And this was quite powerful, and I think it can lead to some good things. Now, they always tell us when we go to these meetings, they say you got to coordinate among your region, and we've obviously proved we've been doing that. And secondly, we learned that they're coordinating among the different agencies. So when we go into DOT, they're coordinating with Department of Energy and some of the other agencies when they're considering these grants that we go for and things like that. So these meetings were quite historic in some regards. So let me just say, we had a good meeting at the Maritime Administration. You know, emissions from maritime vessels and things is very important to us. They've got a lot of grant opportunities there. We met with all of the decision makers, up to, but not including the administrator, but all the key, people that make the decisions on these grants. They had some good advice for us. They really had good communication, encouraged us to stay in touch, and it was a very good meeting, and we'll be following up on that here in the immediate future. Now, we also met over at the Department of Transportation with the principal deputy at the Renewable Energy Office, EERE, which South Coast has long had a good relationship with in terms of research and grants and other things. And this was a very good meeting as well. I think we met with somebody who we met with before and who had worked in the Obama administration. He had worked in the DC government here, so we knew him from that. And it was a very good meeting, and he offered to come out to LA at some time to visit with some of you out that way. So that will be one of the follow-ups there. And then we also met with our friend Chad Whiteman at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He's been a friend of ours for the last number of years because he worked with us on the truck issue, and he was good to bounce ideas off of. He's certainly very knowledgeable about this. He used to work in the EPA, and he used to work at the OMB, very key agencies here. And he's very attuned to the clean air issues. So we did have a good meeting with him. He's open to helping us on some grants and chiming in if we want. It's up to us. But we're going to be in a process of coordinate with him. His chambers. So we felt overall it was a very good week of meetings. We really appreciate your coming out here in the way you did. So I'll just leave it there. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, Gary. We'll hold the questions till the end if we can of the federal. Next is Jed Dearborn. Jed?
Thank you, Mayor Caccioti and members of the committee. And I will continue with Gary's theme of briefing you all on some of the meetings that we had this week when you were in DC. And I'll echo his sentiment that it was great to see everybody, and I'm glad the meetings were so productive. So Cassidy helped organize 2 Capitol Hill meetings with the committees of jurisdiction in the House and the Senate over the Clean Air Act to update them on the EPA's proposed disapproval of South Coast Plan. The meeting also included an update on regional efforts to apply for IRA grants under the EPA's jurisdiction, including climate pollution reduction grants and the clean heavy-duty vehicle grants. In addition, Cassidy secured a White House meeting with the Deputy National Climate Advisors and members of the Council on Environmental Quality's transportation team, including the IRA Ports Oversight team. They appreciated us bringing together such a broad coalition and committed to talking with EPA about upcoming funding opportunities on our behalf. And that concludes my portion of the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Jed. Finally is Mark Kadish. Mark, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you. I'll just echo also what Jed and Gary have said, which we had a series of excellent meetings. For our part, we met with about a dozen members of our delegation, and I think it's fair to characterize all of them as being very pleased and a little surprised, as Gary alluded to, that we brought such a diverse coalition together. Our board members, Wayne, Sarah, and the rest of the AQMD staff did an excellent job in explaining what we were doing, why we came together, how important it is for us to reach attainment, and talked about the grants that we were seeking to apply for eventually. I thought we were very successful in lining up some champions in our debriefs with those members' staffs. We found that I think every single one is willing to push for us. So I think it was an enormously successful couple days. And I know it was very busy and tiring for those that participated, but I thought well worth the effort.
Thank you, Mark. Committee members, any questions for our consultants? Supervisor Hagman has none. Supervisor Perez, mayors, any questions for our consultants in Washington, D.C.? Wayne, I don't see any hands raised. Mr. Mayor Solace, I notice you have a gentleman there in your office. Who is that gentleman? I can't quite see.
He's here for public comment. Thomas.
It's Thomas Jones. I want to thank Thomas for coming to Washington with us, representing the PMSA. Thomas, really appreciate your coming, and I know you want to testify now or on public comment?
During the public comment on this item.
Okay. So this would be the public comment portion now, since there's no more questions from our committee members. Thomas, any other hands raised, Wayne, besides Paul? Anybody here in the audience? Okay, nobody here. So Thomas, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Cacchiotti. I just wanted to again extend my thanks to you, to Mayor McCallum, Wayne, Lisa, the entire AQMD staff who joined us, your lobby consultants in DC. I think this was a fantastic trip. PMSA deeply appreciates having been a part of it, being able to work with the district, being able to work with the Sierra Club and Pacific Environment who joined us on this trip. I think it was an incredibly effective program that was put together, and we were able to successfully get the message out of why federal dollars are needed to solve our attainment issues here. For me, probably the most important underlying theme of this trip was that federal action is needed to solve the issue of controlling emissions from federal sources. And so I encourage the board and staff to continue to work together with industry and environmental stakeholders to look for federal action, because that is the surest and strongest way we can deal with emissions from federal sources. It is the one path that can take us to victory in this area, and we are committed to continue working with all of you in bringing dollars and federal action in on this issue. So again, thank you very much, and once more, special thanks to Lisa Tanaka for all the incredible work she did putting this together for everyone.
Thomas, thank you for your counterpart, Michael. We really appreciated your attending. Any more public comment? I see none. No hands raised after that. I see a question. Supervisor Perez, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the fact that it seems like we had some great meetings out there. Thank you for going out there and representing Southern California, AQMD. And obviously there's always high hopes, specifically with EPA. Now, I'm just wondering if anyone can try to answer this. You know, we've been here before when it comes to the issue of funding or the issue of regulation. And let's just give an example of the non-attainment issue and the fact that potentially there needs to be some changes there and the federal government needs to get more engaged, specifically EPA. Have they ever given us any reasons why they are not willing to work or change the formula that we're under now? I'm just trying to understand what their mindset is on that front. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Super. I think Wayne's going to address this question.
This is my perspective. I believe the agency has become very cautious, and many of its decisions are driven by a legal perspective. And there, in my view, has been a loss of what the real mission is of the agency, which is to protect human health and the environment. And instead, what we get are legal decisions about why they can't do something, about why they're not working with us. We certainly see the challenges through court decisions and things like that. But part of the message that we actually delivered to EPA was the agency seems to have lost its way, and it needs to focus on the bigger issues, like bringing areas into attainment, improving public health. And I think the leadership was genuinely surprised at some of the actions that we had described. And I think there's also been a perspective that we can always do something later. We can delay this. We can stall this. And we said we're not interested in that. We want to solve the problem, not kick the can down the road. And what's most significant today, and I mean in what's driving the agency, what's driving us, is that there are serious deadlines before us with real consequences and a very difficult way out. And I think that will put the agency in a position where it has to reevaluate the things that I just said. And we are hopeful and optimistic that we'll have a chance to work with them and resolve this. But there are a number of different ways that it could go. And that's what we're trying to do, is to do it in a way that gets us where we're all doing our fair share to reduce emissions, and the burden isn't falling upon those that are doing the most, those that are leading the way in developing technology, deploying that technology. So we have heard this before, but we've never been to this point in time where there's a proposed disapproval on contingency measures with real consequences if we don't solve this.
Appreciate the response, Wayne. So you said legal perspective. Does that mean then legislation in which potentially you can make those changes, which would probably be a long shot or at least a couple years of work? Does that mean going to the EPA's main director and that individual is not answering the call and going above that person? Just trying to kind of weigh out the options here that we have. I hear your sense of urgency this morning. I'm wondering, I'm hoping that that same tone that you just brought to our attention right here, right now, you did the same up in DC to put those folks on alert. And sometimes we gotta shake and rattle the situation. And it's always great to play nice in the beginning. But how many times are we gonna play the same game and continuously losing, not even a draw? So I'd like for us to weigh out the options. What do they look like? And maybe we just got to get a little bit more firm. I don't know. I haven't been going to DC with you for all these years. But I will say, though, that I do appreciate your tone this morning, and I just hope that they got it.
Supervisor, I'll just address some of that with you. And I can tell you for sure, we had a strategy going in with our consultants before every meeting, whether it's the agencies or the congressional offices. And that strategy with each member of the team and our board members, myself and Larry, started off presenting the air quality challenges we faced from the port complexes, both of them, from the cargo handling equipment, once they got in the locomotives, heavy-duty diesel trucks, through our goods movement corridors in our neighborhoods, the ones I represent in the eastern San Gabriel Valley, as they go out to you in Riverside, and the Supervisor Hagman in San Bernardino, and then they hit the warehouses and all the equipment and the pollution and the high rates of asthma there. And then each person, the ports came in. We hit them with the Long Beach ports, Gene Soroka. We hit them with, Los Angeles, Gene Soroka, Mario Cordero from Long Beach. And then Thomas Jelinek hit him, with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. Here's what we need. We're trying to work together. We don't want to be, other ports around the United States, because we're working for clean air and working for these research and development projects. We're the incubator here in all the United States, and people can replicate what we're doing. And then after that, labor weighed in, Sierra Club weighed in, all as a unified team, Annie. So it was, and then Wayne, finished off with, here's the consequences if we don't meet these standards. And I'll tell you, I saw Norma Torres was engaged. Congressman Schiff, when I went in there, was just asking questions left or right of Gene Soroka about the technology. How come we can't meet the standards? Whose fault is it? So this was a really engaged and well orchestrated, well coordinated effort. Wayne?
I would just add, Supervisor, that I think every congressional office is primed on this issue. And what they're now looking to is us to either give them language, to give them thoughts with regards to follow-up discussions that they may have individually, or something that they may do as a sign-on letter. Literally, and not all of us are back yet, but we're actually we're starting to prepare what it would look like for congressional members to sign in. We recently, on this trip, met with the EPA, and I think they're also in a state of shock with regards to what they do. So we're trying to give their senior leadership some further information. I hope we'll be talking on a weekly basis to try to resolve this.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining and clarifying some of the efforts that went on these last couple of days, Mr. Chair and Wayne. Especially knowing that all these different groups were at the table. Obviously, will make someone maybe move. But I really want us to start thinking about what does that language look like and start putting something together. And let's put that Washington, D.C. team, our consultants, to work and really push the agenda. And it might not happen now, but we got to start somewhere. And, you know, obviously I heard that there was a lot of discussion on policy, which is why you're there, why we're here. But, you know, as a legislator, folks are always asking for stuff, right? And so we also got to start thinking about what makes these folks tick. What's the motivation at the end of the day behind the main guy at EPA, and why haven't they figured it out yet? You know, a little bit more intelligence on that front, I think, will be helpful. Policy obviously is one end, which is the end goal, but if that doesn't seem to be working, and doing the cost benefit analysis and all that good stuff, then what actually does work? What does that? How do you make that person tick? What makes that person tick? Just some open-ended thoughts. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any more discussion, committee members? Seeing none here, none online. We'll move to the state legislative issues update, and we'll start with David Quintana. Is David here?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Alfredo Redondo, partner to David Quintana. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it this morning. He's actually flying down for a meeting with South Coast and a key legislator later today. Just wanted to provide a very brief update. Yesterday, Senator Mike McGuire, who is now the pro tem of the state Senate, announced his changes to committees, including changes to leadership. So I wanted to briefly mention that Senator Lena Gonzalez from Long Beach is now the new majority leader for the Senate caucus. Senator Ana Caballero from the Central Valley is now the chair of Appropriations Committee. And Senator Ben Allen is continuing his status as the chair of Senate EQ, as well as Senator Josh Becker from the Bay Area will continue as Budget Subcommittee 2, which oversees energy, natural resources, and a lot of the issues that South Coast cares about, as well as Senator Dave Cortese from the Bay Area being announced as the new transportation chair as well. So with that, I'll leave my comments there. Just wanted to provide those brief updates on some of the key appointments that were made yesterday.
Thanks, Alfredo. Next, we go to Ross Buckley. Ross, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. At the end of January, the Department of Finance notified the legislature that due to the significant structural deficit and fiscal uncertainty facing the state, that they would not be proposing any April or May finance letters. Typically, these letters are used as a way for the State Department to request additional spending from the governor's proposed January budget proposal. I would say 99% of the time they're asking for more money in the governor's budget. So this is a significant step. Instead, the administration has said that they want to just consider everything at the May revise when we look at the post-tax update and consider everything during that time at the May revise. The Department of Finance also notified every state department that if they are sending proposals for increases via these requests, that they would not even consider them if they don't meet the existing parameters for the state budget. And then in the past month, since the governor has released his budget proposal, unfortunately, revenues have continued to decline in a major way. The Legislative Analyst Office just said that personal income tax alone were about $1 billion short of January revenue estimates. When you combine this with the Franchise Tax Board saying that the quarterly estimate payments were over $4 billion short, we could be facing about a $6 billion shortfall for just the month of January. So that will continue to put additional pressure on the budget as we move forward through the rest of this year, and especially if things don't turn around for February. That concludes our report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ross. We'll go to final speaker. Presenter is Paul Gonzalez. I see Joe. Joe, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Just want to give a brief update to my written report. First of all, just to cover some of the two-year bills. As you know, we're starting the second year of the legislative session, and with that, about 1,700 bills, resolutions, and constitutional amendments carried over from last year to this year. As Philip mentioned earlier, all two-year bills in their House of Origin were up against the January 31st deadline to pass. That deadline has come and gone, and in total, there's about 400 two-year bills remaining active in the legislative process that will join the 2,500 or so newly introduced bills we'll see this year. Just quickly going over some of the key legislative deadlines coming up for the committee. February 16th, as Philip also mentioned earlier, is the last day for bills to be introduced. May 24th will be the last day for each house to pass those bills that are introduced in their house over into the other house. And of course, June 15th, the state will have to have their budget bill passed by midnight under the Constitution. So there's additionally June 27th is the last day for the legislature to qualify an initiative for the November 5th election ballot. And then August 23rd will be the last day to amend bills on the floor, with August 31st being the end of session. So just wanted to make sure the committee was aware of those key deadlines for this legislative session. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Joe. Committee members, any questions for Alfredo, Ross, or Joe? See none here. Supervisor Hagman has no questions. Supervisor, mayors, any questions for our state legislative consultants? I see no hands raised. Okay, Paul, do you have anybody here for public comment? Okay, not yet. Okay. Anybody online, Wayne, as you can see? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to other matters, other business. Committee members? No other business? Mayors, supervisor, any other business? See no hands raised. We'll move on to public comment period, item number 5. Is there any public comment, Paul? Wayne, anybody online? Nope, nobody online. So we move to our last, is our...
Mayor Caccioti,
Yes, sir, Derek.
if we could just acknowledge that Councilmember Rahman did join the meeting.
Okay, for the record, Councilmember Rahman did join this meeting for the hybrid legislative committee meeting of
Yes,
Friday,
I've been here for a while, but I didn't announce my entry because everyone was having a robust discussion. So sorry, I was a few minutes late in the beginning.
Fine. Okay, so thank you, Derek. So our final item number 6 is just a notice of our next meeting date, Friday, March 8th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and thanks for all your help.